What happens when law, business, and life collide? Each week on Lead Counsel, your host Tom Tona will take a deep dive into topics related to the law, the business of law, and life. There will be insightful discussions with industry insiders, experts, and thought leaders making significant contributions and meaningful differences in their fields of expertise. Tom is the founder and managing attorney at TonaLaw. He has been a practicing attorney since 1994 and the leader of TonaLaw since it opened in 2001. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with free information on law and the business of law, and to give you actionable tools related to each of these areas. Now, here's Tom.
Hey, welcome back to the Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Before we jump into today's topic, I just want to take a minute to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is sponsored by TonaLaw. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. TonaLaw is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. If you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals, check out TonaLaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you. This episode is also brought to you by Meet Gabby, the voice AI built for law firms. Gabby answers your phones 24/7, qualifies leads, and books consultations so you never miss another client. Imagine cutting intake time in half or giving every caller a 5-star experience. That's the power of Meet Gabby. Learn more at meetgabby.com. Mention the Lead Counsel Podcast. You can also hit me up, and I'm glad to make an introduction to the owner. I am here with Jason Hennessey, Hennessey Digital. Jason, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, Thomas. Thanks so much for having me. Longtime listener of your show, and I'm happy to be here, man.
Yeah, well, look, I was excited to have you on because for me, your name has always been synonymous with the space, right? Digital marketing and legal. It's you and a few other big names out there, Seth Price. Mm-hmm. And I've had your book in my library, and I'm super excited to have you on and talk about the future, right? The future of digital, your future, everything else. So for anybody that's listening to this doesn't know, I've been talking about the M&A wave that's currently upon us in legal, right? What I've been predicting for the last 2 years is that it's coming. There's a lot of fragmentation in legal in general. And lo and behold, Google changes the algorithm in December of last year. You can ask me why I know that. It was the most painful December of my life.
Ouch.
And then what I did not anticipate was the wave of M&A in the related fields, right? So I don't know if yours was one of the first, but I know that Hennessey got acquired, right? Give us a little bit of detail about how you got into, the space you went into, how you ended up becoming such a dominant market player, and then how you ended up here today.
Yeah.
As far as where you're at.
All right. Thanks, Thomas. I appreciate that. So I got into legal in 2008. You had mentioned Seth Price. It's funny. He was in the room when I gave my first presentation to a group of lawyers. It was in Atlanta. It was a group of 55 lawyers, and they were all DUI lawyers at the time. And so I gave a presentation, and Seth was actually one of my first clients. So I was teaching him SEO back in 2008.
Wow. Okay.
And so that's kind of how I entered the market. Didn't know anybody in the industry, didn't know much about legal marketing at all. And then you just kind of pay your dues and you show up and you build a good case study and you get asked to go to the different conferences. You start meeting people. Then you get asked to sponsor a conference. Then you get asked to speak at a conference. Then, and over time, your network just kind of continues to grow and grow and grow. And, I think I'm fortunate with a name like Hennessey. It's an easier name to brand, I guess, because it has the cognac.
Right.
So anyway, I just kind of built a personal brand over the years. And part of that is just, keeping your reputation and having good character and treating people the way in which you want to be treated, right? Because there's a lot of people that come in the industry, they screw a bunch of people over and you never see them again. You know what I mean? I never want that. I never want to show up to a conference and think, oh, I screwed this person over, or this person's upset at me, or I owe this person money, so just staying true to just character. And then just every day, just showing up and doing podcasts like this and making short videos and promoting it so that I'm always top of mind, so that's really it. So I built Hennessey Digital. We've been around for 10 years now. You'd mentioned, private equity and mergers and acquisitions. I just sold my agency to a group called Herringbone Digital, but it's not one of those acquisitions where Jason sells and I'm going to go live on an island and just swim, like that wasn't it. It was, I always bootstrapped every business that I've ever built. And so I never, ever had access to real capital. And I've got so many new ideas and innovations that I want to bring to life. And so I was either join Herringbone, which is a great opportunity for my clients, my staff, and then me, or try to compete with Herringbone, And so it just was a great fit. I got a board seat on Herringbone Digital, and I'm now a large investor in Herringbone Digital. So I'm still the CEO of Hennessey Digital, not going anywhere, but now I own multiple agencies in addition to just my agency too.
Right. And I believe it's public knowledge. I'll ask him before I put it out, but I believe Blue Shark was also acquired. I believe it's public knowledge. I mean, I think other people have been texting me. I had already got inside scoop from Seth. So
yeah.
And my comment to him was, that's amazing. The timing was probably perfect for that, right? Because that's also what's happening within the personal injury space in legal, where the 800-pound gorillas got bigger, the private equity money was coming in, and the Google algorithm. So it was like the perfect confluence where you're either going to be a first mover, join the first movers, or get run over by the first movers, right? So like, it's smart in a lot of ways. And I'm constantly evaluating that landscape for the law firm, to be honest with you. So I was happy. You said something that to me was super significant, which is that character component. Too many people have had the other experience in digital and SEO. So that's one thing, even though I never got to meet you prior to the Best Era conference, your reputation preceded you. So like, when I was in the space, that was the next thing I was looking at was you, right? Like, what am I looking at in terms of that channel and what do I want to do with it?
Yeah.
So I think that that's a big thing. When you talked about your team, like, what is the impact of this acquisition now that it's done for your team, for you, along with these added resources? Because I know you're entrepreneurial. I know you're creative. I follow you online. And so what's the play for you?
Yeah. So from a team perspective, there really hasn't been much change. My team is still active. I got a great leadership team. Nothing's really changed there. The private equity group, it's not one of those ones where they're kind of managing it from a spreadsheet and they're just looking at ways to increase the profitability. Like, it's not like that. They like to buy like best in class businesses and basically just continue to compound what's working, right? That's kind of what this thesis is. There's many different private equity theses, right? This is the one where let's buy best in class, let's invest in them, let's continue to help them grow, let's look for synergies. So that's basically been kind of like the playbook. I had mentioned, like I said, I've got a lot of different ideas that I want to bring to life in terms of like AI and automation. And so like I could only grow as much as my bank account can allow, right? And so, when you have access to private equity, now you can actually accelerate some of those ideas and bring them more to life. And I think in the world of AI, it's like things are changing so quickly that if you have like a solution that you want to bring to life, you either execute it or you basically grow out of business, I guess,
Right.
So it's fun, so we've got a great engineering team. It's led by an amazing CTO, and we're doing some pretty innovative things that, some of which we're using internally, some of which I think some of our other agencies that we've acquired will also benefit from too.
Yeah, I think, listen, you said the magic words, right? AI and SEO. And now I'm kind of using the acronym of SEO as search everywhere optimization.
That's right. Yeah.
But I want to hear from you. You're the insider. You're the guy, the go-to guy. We also belong to that Slack channel group with Best Era with Ryan McKean.
Yes.
And I know, like, I'm the lurker. I listen and read to everything you say. And so talk to us about the convergence of AI and SEO, which really occurred December 1st of last year, if my memory is serving me correct.
Yeah.
when Google implemented it.
Yeah. So you're talking about like AI overviews. So Google is basically just kind of changing, like they push the ocean back a little bit, right? So like there's AI overviews. And I think the impact there is that for years and years and years, many people, not just in the legal industry, benefited from writing content that was more informational based, like an FAQ page, right? So like, what is the legal limit, for driving under the influence in the state of California, right? A lawyer, preferably a DUI lawyer, probably wrote a piece of content and published it. And when somebody did a Google search, somebody would have to click on that page to read the answer. Whereas now, like Google AI Overviews is basically pre-populating answers. And so people are losing clicks as a result of that, right? So you are seeing like drops in some traffic for a lot of the informational pages. In terms of like transactional pages, though, like when you've got like Long Island car accident lawyer, Long Island workers' compensation lawyer, stuff like that, that's where, you're not really seeing that much of an impact in terms of like leads and signed cases, but some of that might be coming from ChatGPT though, right? Like you might be getting some cases from Google, probably most still, but occasionally you might notice like, hey, wait a second, how did you hear from me? What? ChatGPT said I was one of the best lawyers for this? Oh, that's cool. I didn't even know I was on ChatGPT. Like, how did that happen, right? And so the thing about it is everybody kind of thinks like, ChatGPT is this old secret thing and then Google's another thing. It's not really. Like at the end of the day, Google is just basically, it's almost like they've got like a photocopy of the entire like World Wide Web, right? Wikipedia publishes a piece of content. Google comes and crawls Wikipedia, right? And they basically index it so that when you do a Google search, you see that indexed of it. It's not like Wikipedia in real time. You're seeing the index of it, right? And then, and that's basically how the World Wide Web works, right? ChatGPT is doing the same thing, right? They're going and they're crawling, Wikipedia and all these trusted sources, and they basically have their own algorithm, right? Which is similar to the Google algorithm. There's certain differences, right? So like, I think ChatGPT uses sentiment a little bit more. So like what people say about you on Reddit, what people say about you on Glassdoor, like, are you really bad and rude to your employees? Do they have stuff like that? So like they're taking in the sentiment a little bit. ChatGPT is also going and listening to podcasts like this. So if I'm so if I'm saying, hey, by the way, I've been Thomas, I'm celebrating my 27th anniversary and my wife, Bridget, and I, we've been married 20 years and we got married on April Fool's Day, right? If you go in ChatGPT like in 4 months from now and say, when is Jason Hennessey's anniversary and who is he married to? They might actually show this as a source.
Really?
Because Jason Hennessey said on the Thomas Tona podcast, right?
Right.
And they might reference this as a source just because I said that, right? So that's where Google's not really as sophisticated, right?
Wow, that's pretty wild because, I'm an avid user of AI and I will often say, if you upload an audio file, it'll say you need a transcript. It doesn't want the podcast episode. Mm-hmm. But meanwhile, they have the capability to do it. That's pretty wild. Mm-hmm. So the other thing I thought happened, again, I'm not nearly as knowledgeable about this stuff as you are, is the way the algorithm really banged up spammy content, right? And part of the problem was when I didn't know better and when people didn't know better, we were paying SEO companies, call it $10,000 a month. Yeah. And they were then hiring these writers that I always would read it and go, my daughter writes better than this and she's in grade school, but it's getting me 30 cases a month. There you go. Right? Yeah. 30 cases a month at an average cost of, between $750 and $1,000. Who's going to complain? Sure. Right. Mm-hmm. So what I didn't realize was when that algorithm change happened, man, I felt it so bad. And then it was just a lot of repair. So,
there is that whole like leverage what works now, but I think at its core, you definitely don't want to just like have content that just has a bunch of keywords in there and stuff like that. I think Google's gotten a lot more sophisticated about that, where you don't have to kind of write it. Like you are writing for the human being first, but then you're also writing for, the Google bot second. So there are things that you have to do to kind of get a strategic advantage. But at the end of the day, I always like to tell lawyers, like, make sure that you have good videos of yourself, right? Even though you got some gibberish down below here, like nobody's going to kind of scroll all the way down. And I know that some of that content is like optimized specifically for Google with keywords and stuff. But at the top of the page, like just have a video of you, hey, look, if you're on this page, there's probably a good chance you need an attorney. You might be at like one of the worst times of your life. Look, there's good news. I'm here to help. Like, use that as like the opportunity, because that's going to create a human connection. That's going to keep people on the page longer, which is a Google signal within their algorithm. So I always like to say, make sure you're putting good videos on your content.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So since this has become the biggest thing, how has AI changed the traditional SEO strategies, keyword, content, link building, technical SEO? How has that all been impacted? I mean, there's best practices, right?
Yeah.
But in your opinion, how has it impacted traditional SEO?
So I've been spending a lot of time kind of studying this. And so it's one of those things, like, I don't know if you've ever seen that meme where there's like 3 different Spider-Mans and they're all pointing at each other, right?
Yeah.
And then they take off their hat and it's like, SEO is AEO and GEO, right? It's kind of the same thing. Like, there's nobody that's going to graduate law school today that will have a competitive advantage over an attorney that's been around for 30 years just because they know how to prompt better on ChatGPT, right? I mean, in terms of the historical value of what you've been doing over 30 years. So in the world of SEO, like the things that are important is publishing content that satisfies the intent of Google searches, building out topical authority, right? You can't be all things to all people, right? You want to kind of be a subject matter expert in what you do, building out like authoritative links to your website, right? So making sure that Super Lawyers is linking back to you, making sure that you got an Abo profile, making sure that you're on Justia, making sure that you all of that kind of stuff. Chamber of Commerce, Better Business. There's all these sites that are kind of important in the eyes of like Google. And that's how you're able to rank high on Google, right? If you do all of those things right, in addition to making sure that there's not a lot of technical issues with your website too, right? So that's that. In terms of like optimizing for ChatGPT, a lot of the same things that you're doing over here is also what's feeding over here too, right?
Right.
So like when you type in like, who's the best personal injury lawyer in Dallas, right? They're looking at things like the Google reviews. They're looking at things like your Yelp reviews. They're looking at things like, oh wait, Super Lawyers is a very trusted peer-to-peer network. We trust that, right? So if this lawyer's here, then that's a signal. The only difference between ChatGPT and Google is that Google mostly rewards links, right? Links are the currency. That's kind of what boosts the authority. Whereas ChatGPT also will give you credit for like mentions. So like if the USA does a story about the best personal injury lawyers in Dallas and you're referenced there, even though that there's no link, you're getting more credit in the ChatGPT.
So there's a lot of weight, I would also imagine, to independent press coverage.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that. There's got to be tremendous weight in that.
100%. Yeah. So, I always be like, great, you got referenced in USA Today. You got to go back to the journalist and get the link. We need the link, right?
Right.
Now, ChatGPT, it's like, okay, great. They won't link back to us. That's okay. We're still going to get the credit with the ChatGPT algorithm.
I do find that there's randomness. Like you can put the same query in a couple of times. It comes up with different results every time, which is good and bad, right? If you're the one showing up, you want it to keep showing up. And if you're not the one showing up, all of a sudden there's super randomness. I have had clients come from ChatGPT, as have most of the people that we know.
Yeah.
And you're always like, okay, how do I do more of that? Right? How do I continue to do more of that? And it really comes down to, it seems like the best practices for SEO are the best practices in general for digital marketing.
It is. Yep. That's exactly right. You kind of summarized it very well there.
So you said earlier that you've got these ideas and stuff that you're thinking about for utilizing AI to now scale and get more creative. Is there anything that you recommend listeners do on that side? Like, because you see all of these crazy advertisements now, lead gen advertisements that aren't law firms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got $95,000 in a week and don't tell your lawyer. Just, you know, like there's a lot of craziness in the personal injury space.
Yeah.
And people like me are like, how do you choose what's real, what's not, and what to do while you're still trying to run the business and make sure that you're servicing the clients as well?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to experimentation. You know, you have a lot of people in your network. I've got a lot of people in my network. You talk to people, you meet people, you learn about new, services, you learn about new tools. And so if somebody that is trusted vouches for this new service or something, you kind of double click and you might do that, right? If somebody says, hey, I'm killing it in pay-per-click, okay, maybe you try pay-per-click. Maybe you take a $10,000 budget and you try it. And if you can actually make that profitable, well, then just continue to feed that channel. If you find a marketing partner that can get you cases by way of this new lead initiative that they've got, maybe you do some experimentation, you take a budget, and if you can make it profitable, you go with it, right? It might not. Like sometimes I tell people, like you experiment with like pay-per-click only to realize that you shouldn't be doing pay-per-click, right. It took you $10,000 to realize that it's not going to be a profitable venture because, there's no way $10,000 can compete with a firm that's spending $500,000 per month, right? On pay-per-click, right? So there's things like that. We're doing things like, we're taking like full websites now and we're using like OpenAI to translate the websites into multiple languages. So that's giving us a competitive advantage where we actually take the full SEO strategy, the way it was implemented, and basically clones it in a multiple language, right? So all the internal links stay, everything kind of stays. And so you got clients that were not getting any traffic at all in Spanish that all of a sudden now they're getting 3,000, 5,000 visits per month.
Oh, wow.
And they're having to hire like a legal intake person that speaks Spanish or a legal intake person that speaks Polish or Portuguese, right? So you can kind of do that using like AI. That's like one of the things that we're doing, always looking at ways to kind of innovate, I guess,
And that's pretty high velocity. I mean, you're talking about this speed. You mentioned speed earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about a label for myself this morning. Like we have people in my office that are change agents, right? Like their main thing is rolling out change in a way that doesn't cause chaos.
Sure.
I call myself a chaos agent because I'm ready to make change, break things, and then figure it out as I'm going. Yeah. But I have to insulate the rest of the team. Mm-hmm. One of the things I love about the AI wave and even the wave of M&A that's going on in legal and the hedge fund money and all of that stuff is it's moving so fast that it's going to force change on the entire industry.
Sure.
Right. Mm-hmm. Free market at its finest, right? Like true economist studies will look back on this decades from now and see like AI is changing by the minute. I find it so fascinating. Like I came back from that Best Era thing, the conference, and I was like, I hope he does this every year. I spent 6 hours just creating a custom prompt after hearing Jay Ruane speak, and I haven't made it through the rest of the work, but it was wild to see the impact of all of that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So it's so powerful. Like there's different things that you can do. Like I went to Stanford. I went back to college this summer and got an executive MBA because I wanted to learn AI. One of the things, there was like a professor there and he talked about this. It's an acronym called CRIT, C-R-I-T, which stands for context, right? So you go into ChatGPT and you provide it some context, right? Like I am a personal injury lawyer in Chicago. I've been in business for 30 years. Right now, I'm currently getting 50 cases per month. My goal is to get to 200 cases per month, right? Boom. That's kind of like context, right? Then the R stands for role, right? You are a 20-year veteran legal marketing expert, right? You give it like a role. Right? You've helped the biggest law firms in the country scale. You've won awards. You're in the Marketing Hall of Fame, right? Boom, right? So that's R. I stands for interview. ask me 3 questions to help clarify some of the concerns or uncertainty that you have. And then T stands for task. And then provide me with a task of what I can do to accomplish this, right? So crit. And like little things like that, there's ways that you can kind of, navigate ChatGPT in ways that most people don't even realize.
Yeah. And it's wild because the more you talk to experts like you, or you're in those rooms of like seeing what other people are doing and you're like, oh, there's so much more, so much expansive work that you can do it with, like on an operational basis. I brought in a COO and he's weaving AI through every component of my firm right now. And it's wild to see because here I am. At one point I was like, oh, I got this AI stuff down. And then I was like, I only know like the smallest fraction of it. And I was like, I got to go back to learning,
That's it.
It's so wild. Quick break to thank Meet Gabby, the voice AI that answers your phone, screen leads, and books consults 24/7. They'll even send out retainers if the person on the other end of the phone asks for a retainer. If intake is slowing you down, check out meetgabby.com. This episode is supported by TonaLaw, a modern law firm built on integrity and innovation. Learn how they're changing the game at TonaLaw.com. Attorney referrals accepted from across the country. You'll see what it's like when you send us a case. You'll have some happy clients. So you're still in the SEO space, digital space, you're still talking to clients all the time. What mistakes are still being made when it comes to SEO or digital strategy by law firm owners in, let's say, the sub 5 million level?
Yeah. So I'd say one is you can't assume that your SEO partner or vendor is 100% of the solution, right? Like when we work with law firms, like we manage expectations up front. We let them know, hey, listen, we're going to develop strategies. We're going to, spend a great deal of time looking at like competitive research. We'll write the content. We'll do some of the link building, but there's things that you need to do as a business owner, right? To actually help with the success of the campaign, right? A, provide good quality legal services, right? Can I get you to commit to that? Right? Okay.
Right. Shouldn't have to be said, but yes, you have to say that.
Yeah, right. Because if we're doing a great job and you've gotten 6 one-star reviews this week, like there's nothing I'm going to be able to do to get you to rank in that map pack. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so that's part of it, B, like I'm going to give you homework, right? I might find that, one of your competitors just, became a sponsor of the Little League team, here. And I might say, hey, why don't you go spend $100 and get that same sponsorship so that we can get the same link that your competitor has? Or why don't we get you on the Better Business Bureau because your competitors are, like things like that. So we show up every meeting with homework for our clients and we hold our clients accountable. Producing a video. Hey, Thomas, listen, when I filled out the form on your website, it just took me to a thank you page, right? I want to have you create a video where you tell the client, thanking them for filling out a form and let them know what's going to happen next with their case, right? Manage the expectations. So like little things like that, always trying to get just a little edge, trying to be 1% better, right? And so that's really what we do. And I think every good marketing agency needs to kind of get the support and buy-in from them as well.
I like that because even the example you just gave, it's that little personal touch versus just a standing thank you page where a client's like, okay, now what?
Yeah,
now what's going to happen?
We're going to go contact the next law firm. Like, why?
And it's something so simple.
Yeah.
So simple. But somebody recently posted on LinkedIn, when everybody's doing something because it's easy, if you do the hard stuff, that's where the ROI comes in.
The boring stuff. Yes. The hard stuff,
the mundane stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like as the face of a firm, if you've got the infrastructure, whether it's sub 5 million or 10 million or whatever, your job is making sure, like you said, a personal brand is developed where people can know, like, and trust you from your presence.
100%.
Right. And that's something that I'm working on actively right now.
And it's at the smallest scales, but also at the biggest scale. Like I was recently in Miami. My wife and I went to Miami for, they call it Art Basel. It's like a big art conference. Right?
Yep.
And so we're there. And one of my clients who's been a client and a friend and a mentor for many years, his name's Mark Anajar. You cannot not see Mark Anajar when you go to South Florida, right? So You get in the radio, there's his name on the dial of the radio, right? He took us to the Miami Heat game. He gave us like courtside seats. He came and joined us for the game, right? I go to the bathroom and in every terminal you see Anadrol and Levine, like face, literally in the stall, right? Then, you look up and there's 10,000 people in the stadium and you see Anadrol and Levine all around the stadium, right? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
But it's not just that. Like, and then he walks in and the way he treats everybody, like people stop him, he says hello, looks them in the eye, shows them attention. The lady comes to get the drink. She's like, hey, Mark, how are you doing? What would you like today? He gives her a $100 bill before like she even brings like rounds of drinks, right? Go to the bathroom. He gives the guy $50 who gives us paper towels. Like these are people in his community that are going to refer cases to him. Right.
Of course. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's doing all the branding and stuff, but if he was just a jerk, you know what I mean? Who cares if you're branding? But he's just a genuine person. Everybody likes him. And that's how he grows so fast, is because he takes care of his community like that. And he puts his name out there. So that's just at the highest level. And it was great to because as a digital guy, like it was great to just appreciate like the stuff that happens in the world that's non-digital, Right.
Mm-hmm. And I'm finding now that's the world I'm trying to bridge. And I think everybody should be trying to bridge, which is digital's great, but you can't neglect the real world stuff, right? So the funny part of it is like I get up, I still do these networking meetings that people make fun of me for. I signed up 4 massive cases in the last 2 days, all referred by this 7 o'clock in the morning networking group I do. And people are just like, hey, do you do products like liability? Yes, we do. I have a new trial attorney. That's what he does. So we signed up these 2, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think where I was your perfect poster child of things not to do, because I have to learn everything the hard way, which is when I discovered digital, I was like, okay, I don't need to do anything else. I can compete with the big guys. I could pull down 30 cases a month from paying $10,000 to my SEO person. Thank God in the beginning of 24, I said, I got to get back to both. If I can do both, now it becomes super powerful. And thank God I did that, because when the algorithm changed in December, it was
plan B, yeah.
I needed C and D backing up plan B. See? Like it took us a month to just figure out what was going on. Why did the phones, the phone volume drop? And again, I have to own the fact that I didn't know enough about it because of, lack of transparency and my inability to understand what I was actually buying, to be honest with you. And so the getting was good. And then I got, as I've been known to say, with spammy content and the impact of spammy content, right?
Yeah.
Now we've since cleaned up a lot of that stuff, but it was touch and go from a digital perspective. But thank God I had focused on the other stuff as well.
Yes.
And, one of the things that's always struck me about you is that you've kind of embraced that, like if you hear John Morgan talk, John Morgan will give away all of his secrets to everybody, right? Why? He says, well, most people aren't going to do anything with it anyway. He uses much different language when he says it, but you've always been one, like you wrote books about it, explaining it when no one was explaining SEO. Any books in your future about AI and digital?
Yeah, actually, I'd like to do that. It's on the list, writing a book about how to best optimize, AI to generate more cases. So that's something I'll probably start doing at the beginning of next year. The 2 books that I did write, the one is Law Firm SEO. I wrote it truthfully because I got so sick and tired of people kind of putting me in that same camp as, some of the bad actors out there. And I don't like the fact that people will prey on attorneys, and try to get a couple $1,000s per month and not really deliver any value. And that, it gives us all bad names. So I'm like, I just want to educate and empower attorneys that if they actually take the time to read the book, they'll be educated, informed, empowered to make the best decision for their firm, and that nobody will ever get taken advantage of. And that's really why I wrote the book. And so I was giving away, I would actually run Facebook ads where I say, hey, we'll mail you the book. You don't even have to pay shipping and handling. There's no gimmick here. Just raise your hand. If you're a law firm, we verify that you're a law firm. I will ship you a copy of the book. No questions asked. And so we were spending $10,000 per month on Facebook ads and probably $20,000 per month to ship out 500 books every month. Right. You know what I mean? So here I am investing $30,000 a month just to provide free information to people, and then you get rewarded as a result of that. People will see it. They post it on social media. Maybe I get a client as a result of that. So there are benefits to this strategy, but truthfully, I just like giving back like that.
Yeah, look, I also think that there's tremendous value in all of that, right? Like your social media content. I'm a big believer in doing the same thing. Like I'm not even selling anything at this point. It's just, I talk about what I like talking about, which is what Gary Vee always kind of says. And there's too many people repackaging Gary Vee's advice and then selling it, even though it's very clear they're repackaging it if you know and you study Gary Vee.
That's right.
So what I like is the give back, because again, that's one of my marketing strategies. It's going to sound crazy, but one of my most effective marketing strategies for anybody listening to this is I've just always tried to help other lawyers.
Yeah.
Right. I took a friend of mine to a very significant opportunity. She's a highly specialized lawyer. I wanted her to meet a highly specialized trial lawyer in Florida. We drove 2 hours each way.
Wow.
I got nothing out of it except the introduction that would help him in his practice and her in hers. I've just always done that, but my business has consistently grown by doing stuff like that. That give back philosophy. It's still fundamental at the end of this. AI, robots, agents, all of it. If you're good to people and you're transparent, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. The business keeps coming in. The phones keep ringing. It may look different. It may sound different, but it will keep growing. It will keep growing.
Yeah, the laws of karma, right? There's good karma and there's bad karma, right? And I'm a big believer in that, and if you do good, you get good, right? And so I'm the same way, I will always go out of my way. I'm a connector, I will introduce two people that I know can benefit from their knowing each other. And I don't have any motive at all in doing that. I just kind of like to do that. And good things come back to you as a result of you doing that. And so I think that's awesome. And the other thing that I like to do too is just be vulnerable and, like on LinkedIn, like a lot of my post is where I'm just kind of making maybe my message, you know what I mean? Right. There's power in that, right? Talking about, that time that I almost went bankrupt, but, I was able to kind of pull out of it and, like stuff like that. Just talk about like not only your success, like it's one thing to kind of post a photo of your Rolex in front of your Lamborghini, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like whatever that is, right? That's what I think the younger kids are doing these days.
It makes me crazy. It makes me nuts. It makes me crazy. And I'm not a car guy. I know you're a car guy, I think, right?
Yes.
I'm still driving a 2017 Jeep. I think I wash it once a year, but I've never been a car guy. I always look at money kind of in a utilitarian way. And I always picture driving off a car lot and watching the value of the asset cut in half. So like I'm too practical with money like that. I guess maybe at some point I have to read the book. Somebody recommended to me the other day. I was talking to a financial advisor and he said there's the psychology of money, but then there is the psychology of spending written by the same author.
Yes.
I think it's called and he said to me, you probably need the other book because you save and invest every single time. And at some point, you can't take it with you. Now, I do spend on experiences and I do spend on my wife and my daughter. Those two want for nothing. And I love experiences with them, right? Food, travel. I know you travel a lot too. So I've been following your travels, which is awesome.
Yep. It's funny. So a car guy, right? So like I bought a Lamborghini. Right. And so people think, oh, here's another digital marketer that's showing off. He's got a Lamborghini. Right. But that's not the truth of the story. The funny part is it has something to do with more of a bonding between me and my son. So like my son, my oldest boy, his name's JD, he's now 23. Growing up, he had like cars, like pictures of Lamborghinis. He like loved cars, and that was the same way I was as a kid. Right. And I always told myself, if I'm ever successful, I'm going to own one of these cars. Right. I grew up very poor. Right. And so so anyway, here I am, standing there. We were in Atlanta, Georgia, and a friend of mine who had this Lamborghini. It's an older Gallardo, and he babied this car. He was the first owner. He babied it. And I said, how's that car doing? And he goes, oh man, I'm going to have to sell it. I'm like, why? He goes, oh, we're getting a divorce and, I'm going to have to, and I'm just like, and I'm like, how much do you want for it? And he's like, why, you serious? He goes, I'd rather keep it in the family. And so like, and then I'm thinking to myself, like, how cool of a dad would I be? And my son's right there right now. right? If I just bought this car on impulse without even getting permission from my wife, right?
Right.
I'm just like, and so we went down to the bank. I got a check and I bought the car, like cash on spot, right? And then they shipped it to California. But that was the story. And it was just a great bonding experience. It makes a great story between a father and a son. And it was just like the coolest thing, So.
Right.
But, yeah.
But listen, again, I take nothing away from anybody that's put in the time. Like you said, again, you've been in the industry a long time. I've known your name, followed you all along. So to see you enjoy that success, and I think I saw you with a picture of the Lamborghini on social media. Mm-hmm. What makes me crazy is the impact of social media on 20s and 30s, right? Like, you got to put in the time. There is no shortcut. Mm-hmm. You might get lucky with crypto or something else, but for the most part, people that build businesses, whether it's your SEO company or this law firm, you can't take away anything from people that put in that kind of time because they know the depths of risk. You talk about bankruptcy. As you said that, I'm like, oh, he's an entrepreneur. Every entrepreneur knows running to the red line, taking risks and not knowing how it's going to pan out. And sometimes you've got these scary sleepless nights. That's what you're in for. But that's probably why so many people will connect with you in that way, both online and then in real life when they see you.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. No. And in fact, like most of the people, like clients that we get, it has nothing to do with like me posting a video about the proper use of canonical tags in a website. Like nobody cares about that. Like people will be like, they'll come up to me at a conference and I don't know them. Right. And they're like, hey, Jason, I want to introduce myself. My name's Joe. I've been a friend of yours on Facebook. Man, I just love how you took that trip with your family and you went to Thailand for 30 days. And I just thought that was awesome. And how you are your daughter and that time that you had this big birthday, like that's the stuff that people remember, right? It's more of like your character of how you show up in the world, right? So that's important to me. And so, yes, I do SEO. Am I the best at SEO? Maybe not. You know what I mean? Like it's my passion. I love it. I've been doing it a long time, but there's probably people that are better at that than me. But, sometimes people just like to do business with those they like and trust. And so, I think that's the fundamental key. Yeah. Is like, I know your wife's name. I know that you love to travel. So if I bumped into you at a conference and I'm with my wife, we're going to have a lot in common. We're going to talk about our trip to Italy, our trip to Portugal last summer with Seth Price and a bunch of people from the mastermind. But what ends up happening is, for me especially, like, and it's funny because I used to have this conversation with Seth all the time because I am a connector, right, of people. And I would have this conversation with Seth all the time where I'd say, look, it's a double-edged sword doing business with friends, right? So like, having that, you walk that tightrope when you have the real relationships. But again, it's good fundamentally if you're authentic online and you show up as your true self, right? I'm not saying you have to put everything out there. I have certain boundaries. Like I very rarely post about my daughter. For some reason, I just don't feel comfortable putting her online. There you go. So, and she'll have plenty of time to do that herself as she gets older, I'm sure. Yeah. But, the point is that you're authentic. So like they will say, oh, he is as cool in real life as he is in person. You know what I mean? I was going to ask the question of what you think next 5 years holds in digital, but I think 5 years is too long of a time frame with the speed at which AI is moving. Yeah. I would say like, what do you think 2026 your biggest focus is, and what do you like predicting as like the next iteration of marketing online, in person, whatever you think the big wave is for 26? Yeah. First of all, I'd get down to the basics, the stuff that you were doing back in 2019. You know what I mean? Like making sure that you've got a good intake, right? That you're responding to the leads that you're getting, that you're following up, that, you know what I mean? Like a lot of times people are looking at the future so fast that they just neglect the blocking and the tackling, right? So I would definitely start there, right? Because, marketing is a good solution that fixes problems, but you have leaky holes in the bucket. Like, what are you doing, right? So I'd say that. Right. I think people should be building more personal brands. I think spending more time building out your personal brand. Don't hide behind the firm. A lot of times people don't really, remember the firm. They remember the person. Any business, whether it's Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, right? I mean, usually there's always a person that you can kind of associate with the company. And so you want to kind of be that person at your company or at your firm. And so that's kind of the model that I followed. And I think people just need to get comfortable with it. I know some people might not be comfortable with that.
I think you have to get comfortable with it. Look, there's a lot of people that are never going to take that advice, but it's not even so much that it has to be video, but you got to show people who you are, because people don't want to refer cases to a firm. They want to know they got a person.
That's right.
Right? Or so like with LinkedIn, there's always that real lawyers don't give out their cell phone. And I was up at school for a while, right? Like that's what my old business coach program used to tell us. Everybody has my cell phone now. People are posting it online as we speak in comments for med-mal attorneys.
Yeah.
Right? Now, mind you, I'm not the attorney doing the work. The attorneys in my firm are doing it, and they're excellent. They love the work.
Yeah.
I'm doing what I love, which is making sure people are connected.
That's
to
right.
me, to the firm. And I think it's a huge takeaway. So I don't want to move past what you just said for 2026. The emphasis should be you have to have a personal brand no matter how big your firm is, right? Like what I love is that some of the biggest names out there now, Andrew Finkelstein has been showing up at these masterminds. He doesn't have to be at these rooms, but you know what he's doing? He's getting referrals. He's making sure he's accessible. I could drop that guy a text and say, I'm going to refer you a case. He'll be on the phone with me 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
Guy runs 4 different law firms. He's got like 300 people working.
Yeah.
Right? Personal brand. I don't expect him to work the files I'm sending.
Yep.
And the smart players, the big players, the small players, the medium players, they were all getting onto that bandwagon. So for anybody's listening to this, if you're not putting yourself out there, what Jason said is worth its weight in gold. That if you pick one thing, create a personal brand that's your authentic self. Yeah. Right. And it's hard to get used to. Like, I didn't love doing it, but I love talking to people. So that's why I chose a podcast, and I like to write. So I chose LinkedIn. I'm going to have to start working on Facebook and Instagram because I don't love doing that stuff. But maybe what I'll do is take a book from your page where you just put up a lot of pictures of your travels. You're a family guy. You're always with your wife and your kid. And, I'll probably take a page out of your book. It's not like you're posting a massive amount. It's just a lot of content that gives you a feel for who you are.
Yeah.
So I think that's worth its weight.
And I try to add humor to it too. You know what I mean? That's my thing. I try to not take myself or life too serious, right? I remember I was on a coaching call once with my business coach. His name's Cameron Harold, and he's just great. And so I remember I was all stressed out about something, and he saw it in my face. He goes, "What are you all stressed out for?" And I'm like, "Oh, this. He goes, "Relax." He goes, "Remember, at the end of the day, you're just going to die anyway." You know what I mean? And it's just put everything into perspective. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're right. You know what I mean? Why stress over this stuff? 5 years from now, I won't even think about it.
How long did you have Hennessey Digital before the transaction where you sold?
Yeah, so it's actually almost 10 years to the day. So I started Hennessey Digital in May of 2015 from a coffee shop in Toluca Lake, California. And I sold it in May of 2025. And so, almost 10 years to the day.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. Look, congratulations on all the success. You definitely deserve it. I'm looking forward, and I'm going to be following you, looking forward to seeing, what 2026 brings for you personally, because I think that it's funny because everybody envisions somebody's going to come along and buy you out, right? That's the ultimate dream if you're a real entrepreneur. But real entrepreneurs, they sit and they may travel for the first 6 months, but they got to keep building, right? Building or breaking, that's kind of what you do as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what happens. And then, we'll probably cross paths in our travels for sure. You got any conferences coming up?
So I'll be in Miami for the National Trial Lawyers. And then I'm actually going to a mastermind group with Law Tigers. That is in February. And I'll probably be back. My son's going to NYU. He was just studying abroad in London. We were there for Thanksgiving, but he'll be in New York. And so I'll be back home often. And so the next time I'm back home, I'll connect with you.
Awesome. That would be great, man. That would be great. I love it. Jason, thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure. I was really excited to have you on.
Thomas, thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Go anywhere podcasts are distributed. Follow us. Leave us a 10-star review. Share some episodes with your friends. And thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you. This episode is sponsored by TonaLaw. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. TonaLaw is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. If you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals, check out TonaLaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you. This episode is also brought to you by Meet Gabby, the voice AI built for law firms. Gabby answers your phones 24/7, qualifies leads, and books consultations so you never miss another client. Imagine cutting intake time in half or giving every caller a 5-star experience. That's the power of Meet Gabby. Learn more at meetgabby.com. Mention the Lead Counsel podcast. You can also hit me up, and I'm glad to make an introduction to the owner.